Hello, Dr. Coker here, and I'm going to explain the complete story of Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn in 10 minutes. Let's get started. Final Fantasy XIV takes place in the land of Eorzea, where, over the ages, 7 calamities have brought civilization to its knees. The latest calamity was just 5 years in the past. At that time, there was a massive battle at a place called Cartano between the armies of Eorzea and the Empire of Garlemald. The Garleans are evil, high-tech neighbors of Eorzea, hell-bent on conquering everyone. During this battle, the Elder Primal Bahamut was set free and killed most people on both sides, but a powerful mage named Louisoix sacrificed himself and managed to save a sizable portion of people. You begin the game as just another adventurer in a city in Eorzea. Depending on what class you choose, there are 3 different cities you can start in, but the main plot points are the same in all 3, and they merge into one story early on. As you start questing in the area, you encounter scholars who are studying disturbances in the ether, and a masked mage stalks you and really wants you dead, but you don't know why. Early on, you pick up a crystal of light and you receive a vision from an entity who calls herself Hydaelyn, who gives you her blessing and tells you to bring light to the world. As you continue to progress, you are occasionally struck with visions of the past, and the scholars tell you that the masked mage who stalks you is an Ascian, a bringer of chaos. You continue to accomplish much and gain notoriety in the city, and eventually the ruler of the city invites you to a banquet to honor your deeds. At this banquet, your crystal of light glows, and people begin to suspect you may be the warrior of light. But then you're struck with another vision that knocks you out. In this vision, you see the Battle of Cartano from 5 years ago, and witness that the Ascians were involved in summoning Bahamut and triggering the 7th calamity. Once you wake up, the city's ruler asks to speak with you again and bestows you with a great honor, an airship pass, and you're asked to visit the other 2 cities and meet their leaders. The 3 leaders are Merlwyb of Limsa Lominsa, Nanamo the Sultana of Ul'dah, and Khan-e Senna from Gridania. You invite them all to attend a memorial celebrating 5 years of survival post-calamity. Meanwhile, in Garlemald, we witness General Gaius van Belsar addressing his troops. He recalls that 15 years ago, Garlemald had the upper hand in the war on Eorzea, but a dragon named Midgard Sormir intervened and they were forced to retreat. After failing to conquer Eorzea a second time at Cartano 5 years ago, Gaius swears they will not fail next time and says the Eorzeans are savages who must be conquered. With Eorzea now open to you, you step up your game and take on a few greater challenges. After running 3 dungeons, the scholars you've been encountering invite you to their organization, the Scions of the 7th Dawn. You journey to the Waking Sands and meet Minfilia, their leader. She tells you that Louisoix, the man who sacrificed himself to save people 5 years ago, was from a city called Sharlayan. When the Garleans became a major threat, the Sharlayans abandoned their city in Eorzea to return to their motherland, but Louisoix led a group of rebel scholars who stayed behind. Once he died, Minfilia joined with the remaining scholars and formed the Scions. She reveals that Hydaelyn speaks to her as well, and that the power Hydaelyn grants is called the Echo, which Minfilia also possesses. You agree to join the Scions and are formally introduced to Thancred, Y'shtola, Ida and Papalimo, Urianger, and Tataru the clerk. Your first task is to travel with Thancred to Thanalan and investigate some abductions. A church assistant named Marquez provides aid. During this time, you learn that the beast tribes of the world worship great and deadly beings called primals, and you find that in Thanalan, the Amalja tribe are plotting to summon Ifrit. It turns out a crooked merchant is assisting the tribe in collecting sacrifices for their god. They manage to summon Ifrit, but against all odds, you slay him, earning extraordinary fame. Minfilia then sends you to visit the 3 cities again to decide on joining a grand company, which is basically an army for each city. During these visits, you meet 2 twin teenage scholars named Alphino and Alize, who are the grandchildren of Louisoix himself. You join one of the grand companies, but as you're being sworn in, a messenger interrupts and says an Eorzean airship has been destroyed by Garleans. You go to the site to help and rescue 2 engineers, Biggs and Wedge, who say their boss is missing, but anyway they take shelter at the Waking Sands with the Scions. Next, Minfilia sends you to the Black Shroud with Ida and Papalimo to investigate another beast tribe, the Sylphs. They and their primal god Ramuh both turn out to be peaceful, but they had an encounter with Garleans and their elder is missing. You rescue him from the 1,000 Maws of Totorak, and he tells you that they've already summoned Ramuh, but he won't attack anyone, they just want protection from Garlemald. During your visit to Totorak, you meet a powerful Ascian named Lahabrea, who really hates Hydaelyn, and of course, you. Back in the Sylph village, you learn about tempering, which is when sentient beings become enthralled by a primal and are compelled to worship and obey. Tempered beings are dangerous and there is no cure, so they usually need to be killed. You return to the Scion headquarters at the Waking Sands, and one of the Sylphs agrees to join the Scions and stay there. Minfilia now tells you she has a lead that there may be Ascian involvement in Little Ala Mhigo. Ala Mhigo was an Eorzean city that was conquered by Garlemald before the Calamity, and Little Ala Mhigo is a town of Ala Mhigan refugees outside Ul'dah. Unfortunately, they don't trust outsiders, and you are kicked out as soon as you arrive, but a fellow Scion knows of a connection back in the Black Shroud that may be of help. You go there and find a group of Ala Mhigan refugees, and get on their good side once you manage to save one of their lives. They give you a letter, and when you return to Little Ala Mhigo with it, you are welcome to the village. You spend a little time chatting and investigating there, and soon discover that the rebellious youths in the village were planning to summon a primal to take back Ala Mhigo. The elders chastised them, saying they could have become tempered or gotten killed. You managed to stop the plot, but many of them were killed along the way. Returning to the Waking Sands, Minfilia asks you to investigate some gruesome murders around Gridania. You find that the rich crazy lady at Haukke Manor is having young women killed to restore her own beauty, but she was under the influence of a lesser Ascian. Once this is over, Minfilia says that Merlwib, the ruler of Limsa Lominsa, has asked for the Scions' help, as the Ixal beast tribe in her area have summoned Titan. You journey to Limsa Lominsa with Y'shtola and meet with heroes from before the Calamity who've encountered Titan before. With their pro tips and well-wishings, you enter Titan's lair and slay him. Just after the fight, Y'shtola witnesses a conversation between an Ascian and some Garlean generals, and they appear to be working together. You return to the Waking Sands and find that it has been ransacked and there are bodies everywhere. Struck with a vision of the past, you learn that the Garlean commander Livia led the attack and they've abducted Minfilia. You return to Marquez at the church and he helps with burying the bodies. Then Alphino appears and drops some bombs. He says Marquez is a man who's lost his memories, but he is in fact Cid the engineer, and he has an airship, though it is lost. He calls out Cid to remember who he was and to help rebuild the Scions. Also, Alphino says they need the airship because the Titan Garuda has been summoned and her lair is in the sky. Cid gets some of his old things back and begins to recall who he was, then agrees to join the Scions. The lead they have on the airship takes them to Coerthas, the snowy land outside the city of Ishgard. Ishgard is an Eorzean city totally closed to outsiders that is an enemy to Garlemald but nevertheless refuses to join in any Eorzean alliance. Anyway, in Coerthas you meet a friendly, welcoming lord, Horshaphant, who helps you and advocates for you where others won't trust you. It's believed Cid's airship crashed at a place called the Stone Vigil, but you are denied access. After much work and investigations in Coerthas, you foil a plot involving an imposter inquisitor who's accusing innocent people of heresy and having them killed. This earns you access to the Stone Vigil, where Cid finds and restores his airship. As you fly off together, all his memories return, and you learn that Cid is actually a Garlean defector who was raised by Gaius himself. Then you head straight to Garuda's lair. After slaying your third primal, Gaius van Belsar, the Garlean general, appears and reveals their latest invention, the Ultima weapon, which consumes primals. You return to the Waking Sands and find Y'shtola, who has valuable info that leads to the rescue of Biggs and Wedge again, who reunite happily with Cid. Y'shtola also knows where Minfilia is being held, so you devise a plan involving wearing Garlean uniforms and stealing a Reaper. The plan works and you manage to rescue Minfilia and the other Scions except Thancred. But then it is revealed that Thancred is possessed by Lahabrea, the Ascian, and Gaius gives an ultimatum to Eorzea to submit under Garlean rule. The Eorzean leaders meet to discuss, but the Scions barge in and convince them to fight back with Garlemald. The three grand companies join forces with the Scions and attack Castrum Meridianum. Inside, Gaius tries to recruit Cid back to Garlemald, but he refuses, and we learn that Nero Tolskeva is a Garlean engineer who is always jealous of Cid. The plan succeeds, as Gaius is defeated and the Ultima weapon is destroyed. Then Hydaelyn blesses you with the Blade of Pure Ether, which allows you to kill Lahabrea and restore Thancred. Eorzean leaders now celebrate the 7th Astral Era, a time of peace and strengthening alliances. But the Ascians are numerous and the Garlean Empire remains a threat. That's a Realm Reborn for you. A good story, but it only gets better as we work through the expansions. Keep an eye on this channel. I'll be releasing the next video in this series, a recap of the post-A Realm Reborn story. Until next time.